The fitness and running culture here is one that's very well known, and that culture of jogging and running and fitness really began here, particularly within the 60s and 70s. And then with the creation of Nike here, it also became just this mecca for people coming and get a sense of why that is so important. What does that mean to be connected to a place that has such importance for fitness and running and health? So Bill Bowerman is one of the most well-known track and field coaches here at the University of Oregon, known here locally, but also nationally and internationally, as well as very well known as someone who started people following jogging and running, and also very well known as one of the founders of Nike. Bowerman came to the University of Oregon to first coach football in 1947, but then in 1949 he began coaching the track and field team, and he got into that based on his previous experience as both a football coach, athletic coach, athletic director at a high school. So he was very much involved with a variety of different sports, but his love was really with track and field. So he began that in 1949 and continued until 1972 as the head of track and field. So that's a large part of the collection, is both his actual records as the coach, his detailed records of the track and field meets, the workouts that he would do with his specific athletes, the recruiting he would do, but then also a variety of other activities he was involved with, like attending a variety of different Olympics, being on Olympic committees, and so it really shows the breadth and scope of his career as a track and field coach. So his early life, of course, he was very involved with the community and developing his athletic career and coaching career, but what people may not realize is he was also served in the military. So what we have out here are documents that really showcase his military career. He served in the military in the Army from 1943 to 1945, and so we have some materials out here, like this is his separation qualification record, his immunization register, and then also his document here, which is the honorable discharge. And then in this letter, when he's writing to the colonel who he worked with at Fort Lawton, Washington, he expresses, "It has been an opportunity and an inspiration working under you. You gave me every opportunity to do the things that I considered necessary to the program that you wanted in your command." And also, very interestingly enough, he says, "I've wanted more than anything to serve with troops," and that's what this lieutenant provided for him, the opportunity that he was grateful for the chance to serve with the organization, and felt himself best qualified for. So for this opportunity to serve with the organization, for the quarters that you granted myself and for the family, and for the privilege of serving under a real officer and soldier, he expressed his thanks. And that was in January 1943. So again, this gives more insight into who he was personally, again, because he's most well known as being a track and field coach, football coach, but this is really where I think his love of service and love of his country really started as well. When Bowerman took a group of his athletes to New Zealand for a relay in 1962, one thing that he noticed right away when he was there is all the jogging that people were doing when he visited. And this was something that I think caught him off guard, because he wasn't used to that, as many people jogging in Eugene or even in the other cities that he visited. And in New Zealand, when he went there, it was very prevalent. And one thing he also noticed is people who were a lot older than him, even going a lot faster than even he was. So he wanted to know why this was the case there and how he could bring more awareness and have more people doing this in the US or just generally. So he embarked on his own research along with a medical doctor, Dr. Harris, and over the course of numerous years and putting together a manuscript and doing their own research, they came up with this book, which is Jogging, a medically approved physical fitness program for all ages, which really goes in depth into the great benefits of jogging and also just how it can really help people in their health and fitness and becoming healthier. And so not only did he do the manuscript with Dr. Harris, but he also put together other smaller pamphlets like this one here, and also even these small ones here that on the back it would give tips for joggers, everything from apparel, posture, diet, checkup, meetings, and then in the inside tips, when, where, what, and how to go about doing this, and even how to track your jogging that you would do. And so nowadays this would be equivalent to many runners, but then this was a new concept for him to bring awareness about, because then it wasn't as well known why you should be running or why you should be jogging. What does that term even mean? And so he, even in the books, would have certain definitions of what was meant by that. What do you even mean by jogging? And it's meant to be slower than a run, but getting yourself in fitness and into health, it was a way to do that if you did want to become a runner, and what were the benefits. Bowerman first began doing shoe development early on in his career. Late 50s, early 60s, when he was coaching a lot of his track and field athletes, he was noticing that a lot of his athletes were either not performing well or the shoes weren't working correctly. And so he began early on to do a lot of testing and investigative work into shoemaking and how could he actually create something that would be better for his athletes. And so it wasn't until, though, the early 60s when he actually began making his own shoes for his athletes. And he actually began meeting with a shoe cobbler designer to actually ask him questions and just kind of the basics of what goes into making a shoe and how could he start doing that for his athletes, if that would help to make them run faster, to do better in their races. So he actually started to begin to do a lot of research and development into that. And so the amazing thing he was able to do is in his close relationship and training with athletes such as Phil Knight. They had a close relationship, and after even Phil Knight had graduated from University of Oregon and was in grad school and had moved on, Phil Knight knew of of Bill Bowerman's interest in his research and development for shoes, and so it was in their relationship together that they actually created a partnership called Blue Ribbons Sports Shoes, and from that is eventually what became Nike after that. But in the early days, though, and in one of the first times they were developing and creating shoes together, or in the early 1960s, this was some first letters that go into that, is when they're talking about working with companies out of Japan and creating their first batches of shoes. But really, Bowerman and Phil Knight were the co-founders of this initiative, of this first organization, and very much entrepreneurs for this company. And really, Bowerman was the research and development side. So as you can see here, we have a variety of materials out that actually went into how he would develop a shoe, how he would investigate what it needed to look like, the size, the shape. And so he would go into specific detail. Here is where he was actually had taken x-rays of somebody's foot and actually determining the marks where they would hit the ground and where there needed to be certain pressure points, how the shoe needed to be shaped. And he would do this for specific athletes to make a specific shoe just for them. So he was very hands-on in developing the shape and the scope and what worked, what didn't. So he was really the one at the head of that development for all the research for the shoes. He is revered really for the contributions not only that he made as a coach, but also the relationships he had with his athletes, and then the contributions he made in general about jogging and just his impact on the community.